Another epic episode that deserves all the praise. But aside from that, a lot more was skipped than you'd ever imagine. Things like Jinwoo asking Asil directly about the system and her answer, the full fight between the hunters and the ant, and even a surprise hunter joining the call for Jeju. But maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Let's dive in and see what we've missed. Now, based on all the changes that I've seen, I think it would be best if we split this video into two parts. One will focus on all the events surrounding Jeju, and the other will focus on the events of the Demon Castle. With that said, it's important to state that this video will be looking at the major differences between the anime and the manhwa and will not be focusing on the novel, though there will be some points taken from the novel. There are definitely other YouTube channels that cover the differences with the novel, the anime, and the manhwa, but I just think it'll be a little too much work for lonely old me, so I'll focus strictly on the manhwa. With that said, let's jump in. Right after the events of last episode, we saw some hunters encounter a flying ant. This is a small island located right outside of Japan, and that will become important very soon. There aren't much strong hunters here. There are just two guys, a D and an E rank, who patrol these streets. Not necessarily to engage in dungeons or raids, it's just that if a dungeon should open up here, they are ordered to contact the mainland, which can take 3 days to organize a strike squad to get here. So keep that in mind as the events play out. Fast forward a bit, we see the ant has decimated the island and killed so many. We get a gruesome reminder that these creatures are human killers and will kill indiscriminately. This also means those two hunters that we saw, they're pretty much dead. Later, we find out that over 294 civilians and 108 hunters were killed in the attack. Skipping ahead a little, we get panels that were omitted from the anime. It was during the meeting with the association that they had a video showing the battle with the ant. During this fight, we find out that these creatures aren't just strong, they're smart. They eliminate the healers first and then make their way through the E ranks and then focusing on the rest. This has terrifying implications for the battle to come. Imagine, if just one of these things could kill so many, can we even fathom what an entire nest can do? This is when Wu would let them know that only after an A rank hunter arrived that they finally killed the ant, showing that the ant was on par with an A rank, seeing that 4 E rank, a D rank healer, and a C rank leader could not take it down. It would become more clear how dangerous these creatures are. And if you're curious as to why so many people lived on this one island, well, it was revealed that once the ant had finished decimating one island, it would simply fly over to the next and decimate others, meaning that it was actually more than one of these islands that were attacked. In the manhwa, there would be a much bigger reaction to this news. The others in the room would murmur amongst themselves, pointing out that many Japanese hunters were killed in this fight, despite Japan having some of the best hunter networks. They question what would happen if one of these ants would have made it to one of Korea's islands. And with the prospects of the ant being able to change direction at will, they could easily wipe out any island they choose. One interesting thing that I noticed that the manhwa often does is refer to these ants as being more akin to bees. But just so you know, ants do grow wings and fly too. You can actually look it up. But to avoid making this video unnecessarily long, let's move along. With that, the president issues the fourth Jeju Island Raid. But things play out a little bit differently in the manhwa. The president wouldn't call such a mission as yet. Instead, the meeting ends and Wu informs the president that some guy's dong had offered to help in this raid. This would be a good time to point out a scene that wasn't included in last week's episode. It is of some guy's dong seeing that Jinwoo had been announced as a new S rank. This would fuel his anger to the association even more. This may be why he decided to use this as an excuse to offer his help. However, his request would be denied due to his past altercations with President Beck and furthermore Jinwoo. But he isn't the only one who had offered to help. In the manhwa, we get introduced to our first named nation level hunter. However, since the anime didn't include it, I do believe covering it would be a spoiler, so I'll leave it out for now. So let's move right along. After their meeting, Wu confirms that Japan will actually help with Jeju, and the new hunter will arrive the same day. In the anime, we get 2 excluded scenes here. One of him, later identified as Ryuji Goto, leader of Japan's largest guild, watching a nearby autopsy of an ant before departing, and another would be of Cha and Choi discussing the Jeju raid in response to President Go moving forward with the 4th raid. An interesting detail here is when Goto arrives in Korea, he detects a powerful aura nearby but is cut off and then accompanied to the Hunters Association. Again, this is a scene we'll probably cover in the next episode, but as to avoid spoilers, we'll leave it at that. Leaping over to the events of the meeting, in the manhwa, President Go, while welcoming Goto, is measuring him up. We learn some interesting lore about Goto's guild as well. The Guild of the Drawn Sword It's a cringe name. It holds 11 of Japan's 21 S-rank hunters, meaning their single guild holds half of the power in Japan. That says a lot. As you know, Korea only has around 10 S-rank hunters, not counting those who died or later retired. Hanakawa serves as an interpreter here. More or less, the conversation between these two leaders goes pretty much the same, with a few notable changes. One key difference is the real reason why Goto is helping Korea. It is to gain the nation-level hunter rankings. As you know, nation-level hunters are those above S rank, not only in power, but in status as well. If Goto were to reach a nation-level hunter status, it would cement Japan as a world superpower. Now, maybe I'm jumping the gun here a little bit by not explaining how this meeting got set up in the first place. In the manhwa, it hadn't been decided on moving forward with the raid as yet. However, through Wu's connections, Geto flies directly to get a meeting with the association to tell them his plan. Once there, he offers up his services along with 10 of the S ranks in a joint operation, knowing full well that President Go couldn't refuse such an offer. Other countries such as Russia had declined to participate because they have their own goddamn problems. Not only that, Goto was smart enough to include a foolproof plan as well. In the 3 previous attacks on the dungeons, the ants would swarm, primarily to the strongest mana point that they could find. These would be other S rank hunters. This is why so many of them got swamped and overwhelmed and then further killed. Now, doing this, the ants would leave the nest and the queen unguarded. Now, if you know anything about ants, that sounds a little fishy now, doesn't it? Goto's plan is to draw out as many ants out of the nest as possible so Korea can lead in the killing blow on the queen. Even if they don't kill all the ants, those ants would also have a limited lifespan and they would die off in a year anyways, as confirmed by their own guild's investigations. This is where President Go would reveal that Korea has only about 8 S ranks, with, well, 6 who are only available to participate in the raid. Without help from other countries, this mission would be nearly impossible, and a suicide mission at that if they even go ahead. So at this moment, we get a glimpse through Go's thoughts. He hopes that Jinwoo would participate to improve their odds greatly. Now, with Goto's plan set before President Go, he says he has to review everything and get back to him when everything is settled, which we pretty much know that you'd say yes, because the anime already said that he says yes. Damn it. With all of that, we can see all the chess pieces moving into place. Goto knows that Korea has no other choice but to accept, and he intends to use the raid to further prop up his own country's might, and his own as well, you know. Meanwhile, Go's too distracted by the prospects of having Jinwoo join the fight. However, in the back of his mind, he is worried that Jinwoo is too elusive to track down and may not take part in this raid anyways. Was it really a good idea to move forward before talking to him? Well, that's a good question, and we'll have the answer in probably next episode or whenever the raid starts. Of course, you know, the anime is barreling right ahead with the plans. With that said, I think this is a good place to stop part 1. So let me know what you thought about this week's episode, primarily about everything that surrounds the Jeju Island arc, how the anime sets it up versus how the manhwa sets it up. And please don't forget, I'll be dropping another video. This week's episode was filled with so much missed details that I had to create a second video just for this. And plus, I wanted to focus a little bit on the animation for the next one as well. Definitely check out the next video that we'll be posting in a few days after this one. So do all that YouTube stuff, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you again for joining me, V Nation. I've been your host, Kyle. Peace out. Stay safe out there.